With a massive market of 1.4 billion people, India has been among the fastest-growing economies in Asia. However, its per capita car ownership is extremely low, with only 2 cars per 100 people. Taking into account its cheap labor force and a large English-speaking population, there was a time when the Indian car market was seen as the next China, a gold rush for major global brands. India has also shown great ambition. In 2019, India aimed to surpass Germany and become the world's 4th largest car market. In 2021, the aspiring automotive star is now determined to surpass Japan. Piyush Goyal, the Indian Minister of Commerce and Industry, predicts that by 2026, India will become the world's 3rd largest car market. However, while the aspirations are high, the reality is somewhat harsh. After years of preparation, catching up, and growth, the annual sales volume of the Indian car market hovers around 3 million units. In 2020, the passenger car market in India recorded sales of 2.47 million units, and in 2021, the total sales reached 3.08 million units. In comparison, the Chinese car market is 5 times larger, putting them in completely different leagues. India, as a populous country with a population of 1.4 billion, has not experienced a surge in car sales. The automotive industry, although it has a certain scale, is still in a relatively slow development stage. Indian domestic brands have not achieved widespread success, with few local brands and no subsidiary brands in the passenger car segment. There are only 3 domestic brands in India: Tata, Mahindra, and Force. These 3 companies have a history of over 60 years. However, due to technological limitations and the size of the domestic market, they have not been able to develop into globally competitive enterprises, similar to the scale of Chinese domestic car companies. In the Asian and African markets where Chinese car companies have relatively good development, Indian car companies are rarely seen. On the other hand, international car companies have struggled in the Indian market. Companies such as Ford, General Motors, Fiat, Datsun, and Mitsubishi have been operating in the Indian market for many years, but with minimal success. The only Chinese brand that entered the Indian market, MG, is also facing the prospect of being acquired, losing control. Other brands such as Renault, Nissan, Volkswagen, Skoda, and Citroën are also struggling. Looking at the Indian car market, it is evident from the sales rankings that the market is highly concentrated. The top 4 car companies, Maruti Suzuki, Hyundai, Tata, and Mahindra, accounted for 79% of the market share in 2022, with sales of 2.99 million units. The remaining 20% of the market share is divided among more than 10 other car companies. However, despite the challenges, India's car market is still full of potential. With a growing middle class and increasing disposable income, there is a significant demand for cars in the country. The government's push for electric vehicles and the development of infrastructure to support EVs also present opportunities for growth in the automotive industry. It remains to be seen how Indian car companies and international brands will navigate these challenges and tap into the potential of the Indian market. Although many car companies have exited the Indian market due to the highly monopolistic competition, there are still many car companies entering the Indian market. Isuzu entered the Indian market in 2012, Jeep in 2015, Kia and MG in 2017, Citroën in 2019, and Tesla attempted to enter the Indian market in 2021. Many international car companies are eyeing the Indian market because it is one of the few car consumption markets with sales of over 1 million units. In 2022, it surpassed Japan to become the 4th largest market after China, the United States, and Europe. Moreover, India's rapid economic development makes it a potential second China, and this market is still an untapped territory for many international car companies. However, gaining a foothold in this market is not easy. This is why many international car companies have struggled for decades without making significant progress. First and foremost, the biggest challenge lies in the conservative policies of the Indian automotive industry, which require companies to establish factories in order to enter the Indian market. The Indian automotive policies discourage complete vehicle imports and encourage local manufacturing, imposing import tariffs ranging from 60% to 100% on complete vehicles. This means that in order to enter India, car companies must consider establishing their own factories to compete on an equal footing with their competitors. The significant investment required for setting up factories has deterred many car companies. For example, for a car with an import price of 240,000 yuan, the import tariff is 240,000 yuan, and other additional taxes amount to 88,000 yuan. The import cost for dealers is 570,000 yuan, which is 330,000 yuan higher than the import price. This is why Tesla initially wanted India to reduce import tariffs and allow for the import and sale of complete vehicles, but unfortunately, the Indian government did not agree. Furthermore, even after establishing factories, profitability is not guaranteed as the profit margins of Indian car companies are generally low. The return on investment makes car companies cautious about entering the Indian market. Secondly, due to tax incentives, it is necessary to develop local car models to achieve sales volume in the Indian market. The Indian market imposes lower taxes on small cars within 4 meters, while higher taxes are imposed on cars over 4 meters, with a tax difference of up to 14%. This has led to a 75% market share for products within 4 meters in India. Most mainstream global car companies do not have products within 4 meters, causing their product demand to deviate from the global mainstream. In order to enter the Indian market, separate product development is necessary. Thirdly, India does not have a strong middle class, so the demand for cars is still at a primary stage, and low-cost entry-level cars are only suitable for highly localized car companies. India's middle class has not yet formed a strong consumer group, with low-income individuals accounting for 84% of the total population, while the middle class accounts for only 6%, according to research data from PW. Without a strong middle-class consumer base, the demand for cars is limited to basic needs, with the average selling price of cars in the industry being around 106,000 yuan in 2022. The highest-selling models are low-end cars such as the discontinued Baidaxing and Yuan that were once popular in China. The combined annual sales of Mercedes-Benz, BMW, and Audi in India is only around 30,000 units. Although India has a large population, most people have low incomes and are limited by the lack of public infrastructure. Therefore, low-cost entry-level cars are only suitable for local car companies or highly localized car companies, as cost control is crucial for these types of vehicles. However, low-cost cars have low profit margins and a long investment recovery period, so car companies need to be prepared for long-term operations to enter the market. These 3 factors: policy challenges, unique demand patterns, and long-term investment recovery pose significant obstacles for car companies entering the Indian market. Additionally, for Chinese car companies, there is an additional challenge: the lingering hostility towards China in India. Investing in India requires constant vigilance against the Indian government's obstacles and challenges towards Chinese enterprises. As the saying goes, India earns money and spends it in India, with no intention of taking a single penny back home.